I think capitalism is a necessary thing we have to talk about in any discussion of hip hop. And if we acknowledge that hip hop is a genre that largely came out of the struggles of people in the inner city who didn't have a lot of money, it's probably a lot harder to sing when you can't afford. You're more likely to sing if you don't have money and you have to steal and do things to sort of make it. But Kanye West at this point, I think, has enough money that he doesn't have to live in the city. He can live in the suburbs, and he doesn't have to steal, and he doesn't have to sell drugs. And so there seems to be an aspect of privilege to whether you have to be a sinner or not. And so I think in that sense, he has been able to put sins behind him and be above that because he can afford to do so.
Interesting. Go ahead.
Well, my question would be posed to both of you since of how you write this article and how, because you seem to say that Kanye can transcend the city, right? And that if he's this God figure, he can transcend it, which I can agree with on so much, but I just wanted to see where you guys took this. But I know earlier in the paper you talk about is when we do the city of God, city of earth thing, that we see that Augustine had a city of God and a city of earth, and they were very much different. But as you put it in this article, in Sin City, it's both city of God and city of earth, and it's a synthesis where they become coterminous. I think that's how you put it. So in this way, if it's the city of God and the city of earth at one time, even if you are a God and you're part, if you would see yourself as part of the city of God, but they're both coterminous, can you really transcend the city regardless?
I think so, because I think, for me, taking this out of the theological aspect, sin is almost a product of the city. It's one of the implicit and contextual rules that we must live by, that the island is, so, I guess, not hurt, but, so regulated by its construct. And makes me think of the Biggie song, somebody called the cops on me when I was just trying to, sell drugs to feed my daughter. Well, who's really the sinner there, right? I mean, certainly there could be, a situation where that is worse for the city, if you will, but in that, Biggie's not seeing himself as a sinner, and it's hard for me to see him as a sinner. But I'm told he's a sinner because of the, illegality of these drugs and drug sales. So, but for me, he's that island that's saying, like, no, let me expand, like, let me be able to, harmoniously live my life, in such a way that I'm free from pain, almost. So the problem that I have with the city is that the city creates sin. It tells us what's appropriate and what's not. And then there's these individuals that are rising above the city because, like the Sin City song from Good Music is they're recognizing the sin. And by recognizing it, it maybe doesn't, absolutely free them of all, blame or austerity or anything like that. But I think that, by recognizing it means that it's not something so universal that you have to abide, by these hierarchy of rules, and that sin is, something you always abstain from, and that it's, and then if this sin is a social construct, it's all right to take yourself away from it, or try to, shed yourself of it.
They still seem to be wrestling with that idea that it is sinful.
Right.
And completely,
certainly, because
post-theological in that sense.
Yeah, right. Because
I was just going to say that goes into a great thing that you said within your paper was that the city produces what it punishes and punishes what it produces.